Hello, welcome back. What we've got in store today is an invitation to sanity. Oh, yeah. Hmm. Yes, an invitation to choose sanity and to choose love and happiness and to choose a teacher who knows what you are rather than one that does not know what you are and attempts to teach you what you are nonetheless. This is a choice that we're invited to make today. So, as we move through the text of A Course in Miracles, we've moved on to chapter 8, section 2, which is entitled The Difference Between Imprisonment and Freedom, which we have completely backwards in the world. We think freedom is actually death, and we think imprisonment is glamour and glory and life itself. And we're invited to switch those around. Enter this course, a course in mind training which we undertake under the guidance of our inner teacher, the teacher who knows what you are, the teacher that knows where you are, the teacher that knows who you are. With perfect certainty, we're invited to follow that teacher instead of the one who absolutely has no clue and in truth does not even exist. When we follow the ego as our teacher, as our guide, as our guide to life and daily action, we're following nothing. We're following a wild idea that is completely fabricated and non-existent. It may seem real, it's not real. And we're invited to return to that thought over and over and over and over again, as many times as we can and must. That's what spiritual practice is for, in all of its forms, no matter what tradition or traditions you practice. As I'm fond of saying here, this course, A Course in Miracles, is only one of many doors, which incidentally all lead to the same place in the end, God. And as we walk the path, in a manner of speaking, we discover that we've never left. Ideas leave not their source. You're free to capitalize the S. And you are also encouraged and free to consider yourself the thought of God, as you're referred to here in this course. We all are. So it's an invitation. Each and every one of these lessons is an invitation to us. Only the Holy Spirit, your inner teacher, knows what your reality is. The ego has absolutely no clue, and it doesn't make any sense to follow a clueless teacher, a blind teacher who can't see anything, who knows nothing, and doesn't actually exist at all. Why would we follow that teacher? The ego is attempting to teach us what we are without knowing what we are. It does not know what you are. And still, in its complete arrogance, attempts to teach you what you are and attempts to hold out all the authority on the subject. And what has come of following its guidance? Confusion, frustration, fear, suffering, a lack of peace. Because while we may get moments, we may have beautiful tropical vacations or European vacations, and we may have a fantastic meal, bottle of wine. We might be in a really hot, sexy relationship. I don't know, right? I mean, there are a lot of great things that appear to happen on the way. But while we identify as an ego, the beautiful things are fleeting. They don't last. Nothing in this world lasts. You want to know why? Nothing in this world lasts. There is no world. You're hearing that for the first time? You heard that right. That's the central teaching of A Course in Miracles, which is simplifying a series of documents that are over 1,000 pages long when you combine all of the component parts. That's the central teaching. You're at home in God. In other words, you, an idea, the thought of God, have never left your source, capital S. Thoughts remain in the mind of the thinker. And let's all be glad for that. Now, here in the world, we appear to be an individual self-sustaining survival unit. Fond of saying that. It's such an appropriate description of who we think we are in the world when we follow the guidance of the insane teacher who is absolutely senseless, ridiculous, dazed, confused, and extremely afraid and knows nothing. Why? Why follow that teacher? Why? We're invited to ask ourselves this question and choose differently right now. Who cares if you've chosen pain, frustration, and fear in the past? It's gone. Choose your inner teacher right now. So why, when we follow this teacher, we get a world of suffering and pain, and our joys and our beautiful moments don't last. There's no world. We're at home in God. So that if you're hearing this for the first time, that will come as an eye-opener. Perhaps that's putting it mildly. It might come as an existential shock. So don't be afraid of that. The Holy Spirit does not want us to fear. That's the essence of it. So the interesting thing and the ingenious thing about A Course in Miracles, if you're new to this or you're just checking it out, is that it is a self-study curriculum. So you take what you want to take at a given time. There is no church with a capital C, based in the Vatican, right? There's no authority figure. There's no global authority figure here with A Course in Miracles. It's not a religion. It's not a cult. That's the last thing this world needs, is more division. There is no division. There is no separation of any kind. So this course invites you to take what you want to take at a given time, what you're willing to take at a given time, under the guidance of your inner teacher. Though we all have the same inner teacher, goes by the name of the Holy Spirit here in A Course in Miracles. So if you were raised in a Judeo-Christian tradition, which many of us were, then you may have wondered from time to time, what exactly is the Holy Spirit anyway? I mean, I used to wonder that as I sat bored out of my mind in Sunday school, thinking about anything else. I used to think, okay, what is the Holy Spirit? What are these guys talking about? Because as I sat there bored as a young preteen, I thought about food, I would think about pizza or what the weather was like outside and how I wanted to be anywhere else. And I actually would think from time to time, okay, well, what exactly is the Holy Spirit? What is this? This explanation that these people are giving me doesn't satisfy me. It doesn't go down, so I'm not going to swallow it. I know that many of you have had that exact same reaction to the way you were raised in a religion or spiritual tradition that you may no longer practice. That's absolutely fine. This course is universal. People of all backgrounds are more than welcome because there is no separation of any kind. That's an idea worth repeating. There is no separation. It never occurred. This perceived separation from our brother, this perceived separation from God, where we see God as this fearful being outside of us, not outside of you. I invite you to consider that. Consider the verbal math. Who are you? Where are you? What are you? Yeah, let that sink in for a little while today, even if it's only for a few seconds. So, following the ego, thinking that we're an individual self-sustaining survival unit makes no sense. Remember, this is a video series about A Course in Miracles, in which you have interest or you wouldn't be here. This is not a video series about how to make more money in the world or to have a shinier, sexier countertop or a better car or a better bod or anything like that. This is not what this course is about. This course is about learning to see things as they really are, including yourself and all of your brothers and the world itself. Learning to perceive truly. It's about awakening. It's about going home, so to speak. It's about waking up, which is what we all want. And it is most definitely what you want again, or you would not be here watching. No, we're free. We're all free to deny this all we want. You don't have to believe a single thing that you hear on this video. And really, we don't. We have free will. No, it's free. It's free, all right. Now, the insane teacher, the ego, that tries to teach us that we're something we're not and doesn't know what we are, so why follow it? Really, why? Why? There's no reason to follow its guidance. It tries to teach you that your will is not free, that you're imprisoned, that you're stuck. You're stuck. This decaying thing that doesn't look like it did 40 years ago at all. 40 years ago, the hair was not white. Nothing in this world lasts. There is no world. This doesn't last. And we know that. We all know that. There's no reason to follow the teacher that attempts to convince you that this is your only reality. Really? I mean, really, you know it's not, or you wouldn't be interested in spirituality in the first place. None of us would. What's going on here is that's the call of our inner teacher. You're hearing the call, and because you're here, because you're even interested in this course, you're answering the call. And if you understood how beautiful that is, you'd continue to answer it. But that is what the world needs. That's what your brother needs, is for you to answer the call, to begin to set the ego aside and to show your brother, our essential oneness. So, very important. Very, very important indeed. We're invited to abandon the ego as our teacher today. That'd be great. We're invited to abandon the ego, the clueless ego, as our teacher, and to understand that your will is free because your will and God's will are one. One. We're one with God, having never left our source. One. One. Repeat that. It's one syllable. Your will and God's will are one, and the ego is the denial of your free will. It wants you to think you're imprisoned and stuck in this 80% water shell that constitutes your life, along with everything else that we've made, like our economic systems, which we accord reality. So we slavishly strive and exhaust ourselves in these systems to get an illusion that we call money. Nothing against it. It's nice to be able to pay for things. So, yes, let's continue here to pay for things, but it's a complete illusion. I mean, think about the unreality of your bank account, however much money appears to be in there, whatever the number says. Is there actual money in there? I mean, right? It's illusory. All of it's an idea, and the world itself is simply an idea. Everything in it. So, what do we do as a practical matter? Yes, the world is illusion. Anything that shifts and changes is illusion. Anything. God is. Only God is. Happily, that's where we are as well. So, in the world, here's what you do. You continue to show up for work. You continue to pay the light bill and the rent or the mortgage. You continue to feed the physical body and drink water and go to sleep and go to the bathroom. You continue to show up. However, you are invited, and this is 100% possible, to show up and not believe any of it. It is 100% possible to function fully and well in this world while not according it any reality whatsoever. How do we do this? It's actually quite simple. We give our entire experience over to our inner teacher, the teacher who knows what we are. And we'll let him run the show, which may sound very scary at first, and it may sound like anathema to you. And it, all right, so be it. It's the ego that's afraid. The ego is only correct about one thing. This is something that Jesus tells us here in the Course. It's correct in its terror that you will abandon it, because you will. Why? The separation never occurred. What separation? What ego? You've never left your source. You will awaken to this, and the ego doesn't want you to. It doesn't know what it wants, of course, but it doesn't want your happiness. Guess who does? Your inner teacher. Which will you follow? That's the invitation to all of us. All right. So, I'm laughing because I just never know what is going to come out of my mouth, apparently, right? Because this is a pixelated image on your screen. The teachings of our inner teacher are simple, they're disarmingly simple. And let's emphasize, if you want to, disarming. There's a lesson in that. And that's the point. We're the ones that have introduced all of these complications into our lives, all of our categorizations, our divisions and subdivisions, and all our constant push and pull where our attention is fragmented a million times over. Well, there is no fragmentation. There's only perfect oneness, God. What we call the spiritual path is nothing more than an undoing in truth. It's removing a veil. It's as though we've placed a veil over our eyes, in a manner of speaking, and we can't see truth. So we're removing the obstacles to our awareness of truth. We're removing the veil. We're moving through a fog bank. That's another way of looking at it. We're setting aside a shroud. We're removing the barriers to our awareness of truth. And that's spirituality in a nutshell. And along the way, we do realize we've never been anywhere. So what we call a journey, well, it's just a word, because we're not actually going anywhere at all. There's no separate place to go because we're at home in God. And there's no division. There's no separate place. There are no continents. There are no planets or solar systems that are separate from other planets or solar systems. There are no people. This is not who we are. Count on the ego resisting that one, but it's not who we are. There is only perfect oneness with no divisions at all. And it's perfect oneness, happiness, joy. That's our natural state. And we're invited to remove the barriers to our awareness of this. All right. So, as always, I thank you for joining me. And it's very, very important. The commitment that you make to your spiritual practice is the most important offering that you could ever give anyone, anywhere, anytime. So, for the fact that you're listening to the call of our inner teacher, I thank you for that. That's what the world needs. Your dedication and commitment to your practice. So along the way, if you have questions or comments, please feel welcome to leave them here. And this is a great place for any questions that you might have. The subscription button is right here. So thank you to all of you who have recently joined. That's the arrow in the corner of your screen. Go ahead and click on that. We'd love to have you join us. What we've got here is an international community that's growing, and really people are here from all over the world because we're hearing the call. It's universal and it goes out to all of us 24/7. The question is, are we listening? And because you're listening, you're here. So I invite you to continue to tune in. We're going through the text of A Course in Miracles. And, well, we're on chapter 8. And there are 31 chapters. So that means lots of opportunities to hear the voice of our inner teacher and to listen to the voice of our inner teacher, and then to act according to the voice of our inner teacher. There's no need to follow the ego. It doesn't exist, and it doesn't know anything anyway. All right. Thank you, as always, for joining.